the female of the species. That's Space right here on Radio 3, taking us into Tuesday afternoon. That means we're off to St Kilda in Aussie for a very locked down Maurice Misalowski. Join us on Facebook Live if you can, because today we're going to talk about TikTok. Well, it's just an app, isn't it? Well, apparently not. It's a whole lot more than that. The US president is in the news every hour, every half an hour, saying he's doing Microsoft a big deal. Whatever, I don't know. Maurice, how are you?
Yeah, I'm very, very good, Phil. I'm not sure you should be here, though, because I'm not allowed to have people in my office or my home.
Oh, Maurice.
So you are breaking all the rules of Australia, of Victoria anyway.
Yep, well, it's lovely to talk to you. But the good news about all of this hoo-ha is our connection's nice. Dare I say that?
Very good. So let's just keep going instead, in case.
Yeah, before it finishes. Anyway, it just struck me, Maurice. TikTok and other similar apps have been in the news for different reasons here in Hong Kong. As you know, they're quite contentious now. It's not just an app that I download and use, and I think that's possibly where we're going with today's chat.
Yeah, it is. Look, TikTok is seen as being a Trojan horse. It's an app that's gone viral around the world. It's worth $140 billion, which is astronomical, just phenomenal for something that was created only a few years ago. TikTok itself came about in 2016. Its parent company was launched in 2012. So it's come a very, very long way.
Was it a bit like Zoom or whatever? A bit, not a toy exactly, but just a bit of fun, and then last year happened.
Yeah. Look, absolutely. It's a bit of fun and then. So for those that haven't caught up with it, TikTok's readily available on your iPhones and on your Androids and whatever else. It's an app you download. It's totally free. And for that privilege of putting it on your phone, you have access to people right around the world who have put up between 15 and 60-second videos. And what it does is when you go into the app, it immediately comes up with a screen which is a video. If you don't like it, you swipe up, as against right and left up, and you watch another video, and it literally just cycles through video after video and can chew away the days, weeks and months of your life.
There is one thing to chuck in at this point, Maurice. You said I could well, I can't, because Hong Kong's on the no-no list, isn't it? Of course, as of
absolutely.
July.
So I will do something that I'm not allowed to do because you are doing something that you're not allowed to do.
Well, I can't get it. So, I mean, even if I wanted to.
Okay, well, I take it back, then you can't download it, but I don't know whether, well, this is terrible radio and even worse television, but I'm holding it up to the screen so that you can see it.
Yeah.
And what it does is an app, and when you swipe up, it takes you to the next one. Again, terrible radio, I know.
Careful where you're going with this, Maurice.
All I'm doing is swiping upwards.
You don't know what's on the next swipe.
I can't see what we're doing. Phil's pointed out perhaps the last video was not all that wonderful, but let's go past that point. So that's what it does. Look, it's become the biggest Trojan horse on the planet. Trump's really talked it up.
Does he want to own it so he can just close it down quietly? Because it's a Trojan horse. There's all this hoo-ha with China and security. And he says, the boss of Microsoft, he called me, he says. Does he just want to own it and get rid of it? Similarly.
No, look, Trump wants to do Trump, and if you ask me, I'm a great one in believing that there is more to this than meets the eye. I truly think that this is a way for him to get attention away from all the other stuff that's not being done in America and elsewhere. It's a really, really good conversation piece. But by the by, so what he claims is inside this Trojan horse, and there is truth in that, inside this Trojan horse is a whole lot of information being collected, and that information is about American citizens, and as their president, he has the right to ensure that they are safe.
So he wants to know all that stuff.
Well, that's the problem. I mean, that is the problem, I would suggest in some ways as well, is that he can't get his little hands on it. Now, remember that we don't know this to be true, and it's alleged and all those kinds of things. Please don't sue me. But we heard about the internet and social media being used for past political campaigns and possibly for this one.
Oh, yeah.
He can't get into this. Look, what is happening is, as we all know, is that there's posturing going around the world between China and a whole lot of other governments. This seems like a really, really good stick to beat China with.
Is that what this is about, Maurice? I mean, really get it down to the...
I truly think that's what it is. Look, I don't know because Trump won't take my calls, but I'm assuming that's what this thing really starts from, is that he wants to beat China up, and China, of course, wants to come back, and they're having an argy-bargy over this whole thing. If he was true, if in my belief, if this was truly what was keeping him awake at night,
Yeah.
then it's not just TikTok we need to worry about. There are a whole lot of other
Oh,
apps,
gosh, yes.
including every single app that has ever been used that has this amount of information or more in it. Look, TikTok itself, I think, is a really benign app. Let's get away from the politics and all that stuff, which people can decide for themselves.
Yeah.
It's a benign app. It's working really, really well around the planet. It allows people to create stuff so they can show themselves to the world really easily.
What,
and to
what compels people to do this, Maurice? I mean, in its purest form, it's a toy, except, the best place to hide things is right under people's noses.
It's a toy, but it's also a bit of voyeurism too. You get to promote yourself to the world. It's all the usual things on social media, but it's a really easy thing to do. It's one of those things that I think is almost addictive. And I've watched people do it, and they literally almost fall into it. You do fall into it because you swipe up and you swipe up and you just keep watching and watching. But behind this is a really, really, really sensible company. TikTok's one of the apps that they're known for, but really what they're selling, like Facebook, like LinkedIn, and like the others, is not what we're watching. What they're selling and what they make their money from is the secret sauce. That they have some really, really incredible artificial intelligence, machine learning, whatever we want to call it, that allows them to understand who's watching, and as we watch more and more, to be able to feed us information that's more and more relevant to us. They're able to come up with what I call intuitive technology, and that to me is their secret sauce, and they're beginning to use that really well to make money in the music industry, in the advertising industry, and in all sorts of other businesses. Mobile gaming is a big business for the parent company, not for TikTok. TikTok is one of their products, like Apple has many
So this
products.
is why Trump wants to talk to the big boys at Microsoft, basically. I think you've answered my question very basically.
So it has the capacity really to understand its user in ways that the other technologies don't, because it's new, it's been built up from the ground, and it doesn't have all those old legacy systems which were once wonderful in themselves. It can do some really, really clever, fast, quick things around search, commerce, and all the rest. It has the potential to become even bigger.
So why TikTok then? Why did they? Is this just them thinking, "Oh, let's have a bit of fun," or are they actually using it as some quite clever experiment?
Well, who knows? I mean, I can't answer that, Phil. The Chinese government assures us, well, it doesn't. It says nothing, and the owners of TikTok, of course, says they have nothing to do with the Chinese government in the way of feeding them information, that they're not being used as a puppet or anything else. They're totally independent. Its owners and its boards have tried to give all kinds of different sureties of that. They have set up a board in San Francisco, a TikTok one. They employed thousands of people whose role it was just to prove that it was transparent and open, and it's done that in the last 6 or 7 months, and that hasn't made Trump happy. They've literally promised to bend over backwards in all sorts of ways, and that hasn't made Trump happy. So what we have is the notion of if they close America, which is the option, and walk away, they lose a huge market and the potential add-on markets. Remember, it's not just America. They're also having a fight with India. TikTok's been thrown out of India as well. Strangely enough, on the other side, the United Kingdom, our friend Boris, has just allowed them to open up an office in the last week, in the last couple of days.
And then on a different news story, he's been told Huawei's on the way out. 7 years, 6 years now, nearly, before Huawei is bye-bye in the UK. So it's really snakes and ladders, isn't it?
It really, really is. So it goes up and it goes down, and it makes no sense whatsoever, because I said Boris is just literally welcome this week. He got a doormat with welcome written on it, and the other two are getting rid of them. What's interesting is that Trump, of course, has said that he's doing this for global good and for all the rest of it. It's fascinating because at the same time we have in America, we've got Facebook and we've got Google and we've got Amazon, all of those before the committees talking about secrecy and privacy and how they're not able to ensure Americans have equal access and privacy and all the rest. So you've got these other really large companies who are being lambasted now as well.
So many of these stories, Maurice, they're all about, am I being watched? There is just no trust. The trust is in minus figures. And yet we still want the Chinese buck, and we still want the American buck. It's just a horrible side of human nature, but a reality.
And it's again interesting because the only suitor that TikTok can find in America at the moment is Microsoft.
No, don't.
Because
Yeah.
all of the other large companies, all of them are before the National Congress and the committees for doing similar things. So they can't buy it. They don't need the headache at the moment. Apple doesn't do these types of acquisitions. It doesn't normally spend this kind of money. And I don't fit into the Apple range anyway, so they can't do it. So you've literally got nobody left with open wallets or pockets big enough to do it, except for Microsoft.
Why does anybody need this thing anyway? Take it as
Well, they
on
don't.
its
I
own.
mean, the reality is that 5 years ago we didn't have it, and we didn't miss it, and we didn't know about it. It has now become a phenomenon. It has the capacity, as I said, to go into search, to go into e-commerce, to go into gaming.
Yeah.
So at its core, its smarts are really worth having, because its smarts can take you into a space that no one's ever been before. It's not Google, it's not search engine, but to me it's the equivalent. You know, when Google reinvented the search engine and made it really easy and clever, it became the default. I don't think TikTok will do that, but I think its know-how, its internals will definitely allow it to go into those spaces.
You got any questions for Morris? Join us on Facebook Live, because it's working today. Amazing. Tell us a bit more about this big company, totally news to me.
Which big company?
You say the parent, the mothership.
So the parent company is a Chinese-based company. It's been around since 2012. It's called ByteDance, BYTE, Dance is its name. And it has a whole lot of companies. As I said, it's worth $140 billion at the moment and rising. So it's what's called a unicorn. Its advertising revenue has been going through the roof. It's up 22% this year alone. That's in revenue, actually making money, which is something lots of these companies have not done for a very long time, especially these newish ones, 3-4 years, often struggle to make a quid. They make it by having people invest in other things. They're actually doing it by solid money through revenue into App Store and the rest.
So Trump wants it, and he wants it now. This is basically the angle, isn't it?
Yeah. It is. And to your point, why is it important? Because it's the flavour of the month. It is increasing its viewership by about 24% month on month. Facebook's going back. Facebook's in -1.4, Twitter's in -9. In other words, less people are beginning to use those spaces, and TikTok's taken over.
Does TikTok have any significant use for good?
Well, all of this, they would argue, is significant use for good. It's connecting communities and sharing information. Yeah. They're also using it in music, where they're able to give people, they're able to feed people music that's of interest to them. So the Spotifys and the rest do it. Again, their technology seems to make it easier for them to do. Mobile gaming is where they're making a killing, an absolute. They have increased spending by 72% inside of apps. So when you go into a mobile game, you're able to use it for free, but then you're able to buy add-ons, extra stuff, or depending on what the game is, and using the smarts of being able to feed people things that they might want to do on their devices while they're playing. They've been able to literally squirrel away hundreds of millions of dollars.
I got a message here from Nigel. This is a cool one.
Hey, Nigel.
He says TikTok annoyed Trump when the K-pop kids and others used it to book 1 million tickets to his rally and only 6,500 people turned up. So yeah, he wants control, says Nigel.
Yeah, I think he actually did not enjoy them before that, but I'm absolutely with Nigel that certainly that irritated him even more. It actually wasn't even in TikTok; it was in all sorts of other spaces where they were doing it too.
But that's so cool.
We seem to have this vision of Trump getting a bee in his bonnet and going after it, and this seems to be it.
He seems to have form for that.
Yeah, he does. And on that realm, which is an aside but not, I love the comments over the last 24 hours where Trump actually is now looking for a commission out of the deal. So the president of America is now saying that Microsoft has to cough up some money because he's brokered the deal. Without him, it wouldn't exist.
Because we enabled it, he said. I mean, you got to give it to him.
Yeah. So whatever way you slice and dice this, he's a really interesting dude about this whole thing. So who knows? I mean, really, who knows with him? So we will see. We will watch this space. But for me, I'm sure TikTok somehow will survive. Past this point, they will get bought by somebody, or worse, they will move out of the market, which I don't see, and reinvent themselves somehow and come back again post-Trump.
Are we going to see any more names rising from virtual obscurity to being this level of news? Is there anything you see bubbling,
Not at the moment, but really you have to go into Trump's mobile phone to see what it is that he's using that annoys him. As we get, it's a great question, because what I've found over the last few weeks is that as we get closer to the election, he gets more and more uncertain about what's going to happen to him. His rhetoric has seemed to increase around social media and the use of it. So yes, it's quite likely that he will pick on somebody else after he's had a go and finish with TikTok.
That's incredible, isn't it?
He's never really liked Twitter. He's tried to close them down a few times. He's certainly made some comments over the past few weeks about wanting to control or to stymie them. He's had a go and will have a go again. We will see.
I mean, as you say, there is sort of previous for this, that a lot of it is purely based on a tantrum.
Look, I'm not a political reporter, but to me, it absolutely seems like that's what it is. It seems to be that he doesn't want it. I also think he suffers from white man policy. I'm one of them, so I'm saying it with me.
White man policy.
He doesn't really understand the technology. He doesn't get it. He's only seeing it for its purpose for him, and it's annoying him about what he wants to do with it.
That makes a lot of sense, Maurice. Before we say goodbye, anything you want to draw our attention to on your blog, vlog, website, anything?
No, if you haven't had a look, I'd love you to have a look at the new website. It's morrisfuturist.com. Yep. If any of your listeners want to catch up for a chat about technology or about anything about their business, I'd love to do that as well. You'll find the opportunity to do that at the site.
Maurice, take care. Lovely to see you for once, and we'll do it all again at the same time next week. That is Maurice Misalowski with The Word.